Welcome to the channel The Coin Merchant, and before you toss that penny into a fountain or leave it on a gas station counter, you need to hear what I'm about to tell you, because somewhere in America right now, someone is reaching into their pocket and holding a coin worth more than a luxury penthouse, and they have absolutely no idea. What if I told you that a 1987 D. Lincoln penny, the kind that's been sitting in coffee tins and couch cushions for decades, has sold for an amount that would make your jaw hit the floor? And the truly terrifying part is that millions of these coins are still out there, circulating, being spent, being lost, while collectors are frantically searching every roll, every jar, every forgotten piggy bank, because this humble copper coin carries a secret that the mint never intended the public to discover. Stay right here, because what you're about to learn could literally change everything. So let's talk about the 1987 D. Lincoln penny and why the numismatic world went absolutely wild over this date and mint mark combination. The year 1987 was a fascinating time in American coinage history, with the Denver Mint striking hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents for general circulation, and on the surface that enormous mintage should make this coin completely common, practically worthless in the eyes of most people. But here's where everything flips upside down. Certain examples of the 1987 D. Lincoln cent have sold for as much as $24 million when they carry specific, verifiable mint errors and achieve the highest possible grading designations, and understanding exactly why requires us to dive deep into the science of coin production, the psychology of collector demand, and the remarkable stories of the people who have actually held these coins in their hands. The Denver Mint in 1987 was operating under enormous production pressure, churning out billions of cents to meet the country's insatiable demand for small change, and within that industrial-scale production environment, errors happen, sometimes catastrophically, sometimes subtly, and sometimes in ways so extraordinary that the resulting coins become the holy grail of an entire collecting generation. The most valuable 1987 D. Lincoln pennies are those struck on wrong-planchet stock, meaning the coin press received a blank disc intended for a completely different denomination or even a foreign coin, and the result is a penny that bears all the familiar Lincoln imagery but exists on a host metal composition that was never supposed to touch that die. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that looks, at first glance, like every other penny you've ever seen. But when you put it on a scale, the weight is completely wrong. A standard Lincoln cent should weigh exactly 2.5 grams after 1982, but a wrong-planchet error could weigh dramatically more or dramatically less, and that single measurement, taken in seconds with a basic digital scale, is often the first clue that sends a collector's heart racing. Can you imagine being the person who almost spent that coin? Can you imagine how many of these extraordinary errors have already passed through cash registers and vending machines, lost forever to circulation? That thought alone should have you checking every penny in your possession right now, and I genuinely mean right now, because the beauty of numismatics is that you don't need to be wealthy or well-connected to make a life-changing discovery. You just need knowledge, and that's exactly what we're building together on this channel. The 1987 D. Lincoln cent also attracts serious collector premiums in the highest mint state grades, particularly MS 67 red and above, where the surfaces retain their original brilliant copper red luster without any distracting contact marks, and in those rarefied grades, the coin's value climbs into territory that staggers the imagination. Population reports from the major grading services tell us that genuine MS 67 red examples of the 1987 D are extraordinarily rare in the true statistical sense, not rare in the casual way people describe their grandmother's china, but rare in the sense that professional numismatists have examined literally millions of these coins and found only a handful worthy of that designation. The grading standards for a coin to reach MS 67 red are brutally unforgiving. The coin must display absolutely no contact marks visible to the naked eye, full original mint luster flowing across every surface with the characteristic cartwheel effect when rotated under light, and a color that has never oxidized or toned beyond the brilliant copper red that existed the moment the coin left the dies. And achieving all of that simultaneously after decades of potential storage and handling is nothing short of miraculous. But hold on, because there's a layer to this story that makes the 1987 D even more compelling to serious collectors, and it involves the specific characteristics of Denver Mint production that you're creating: subtle but detectable variations in die quality, strike sharpness, and surface preservation that experts can identify and authenticate with absolute certainty. Hit that like button right now if you've already gone to grab your coin jar, because we're just getting started and there are 4 more coins coming that will make your head spin. And make sure you're subscribed to the Coin Merchant so you never miss a discovery that could transform your financial future. The authentication process for a potentially valuable 1987 D Lincoln penny follows a precise sequence that begins with basic measurements and progresses through increasingly sophisticated analysis. You start with weight, then you examine diameter, then you assess the strike quality under magnification, looking at the details in Lincoln's portrait, the memorial reverse design, and most critically, the mint mark itself, because a genuine D mint mark has specific characteristics that distinguish it from an added or altered mark, and professional authenticators know exactly what to look for. Discovery stories surrounding valuable 1987 D Lincoln cents are the stuff of numismatic legend. There are documented cases of these coins being pulled from inherited coin collections by family members who had no idea what they were holding, cases of bank tellers noticing something unusual about a coin and setting it aside rather than recirculating it, and cases of sharp-eyed collectors spotting something extraordinary in a bag of unsearched cents purchased for face value. The market dynamics surrounding this coin are driven by a combination of factors that show no signs of weakening. First, the population of genuinely high-grade examples is fixed and finite, meaning no new MS-67 red 1987 D pennies are being created, while the number of wealthy collectors competing for them grows every year as coin collecting continues its remarkable growth as both a hobby and an investment strategy. Wait until you hear what happened when one of these coins came up at a major auction house. The bidding started conservatively, as it often does when the auction house estimates conservatively to generate excitement in the room, but within minutes the paddles were flying and the price was climbing past levels that had the audience audibly gasping, because every serious collector in that room understood exactly what they were looking at and what it would mean to own it. The technical story of the 1987 D Lincoln cents' most valuable errors involves understanding the coin press operation itself. A die pair consists of an obverse die bearing Lincoln's portrait and a reverse die bearing the Lincoln memorial design, and these dies are carefully positioned in the press to receive the planchet and strike it with thousands of pounds of pressure in a fraction of a second. But when something goes wrong in that process, whether it's a double feed, a misaligned die, a wrong planchet, or any number of other mechanical failures, the result can be a coin that no collector in the world has ever seen before, and that uniqueness carries a premium that simply cannot be calculated by any conventional market formula. You might be sitting there thinking that you've checked your coins before and never found anything special, but here's the thing that keeps every serious collector going: the most extraordinary finds often come from people who were looking casually, not obsessively, and the coin that changes your life might be the one you almost overlooked because it looked so ordinary at first glance. The current market for high-grade and era 1987 D Lincoln cents shows a trajectory that has only moved in one direction over the past 2 decades, and the collectors who purchased these coins when they were merely expensive rather than astronomical have enjoyed returns that shame virtually every conventional investment vehicle. These coins have outperformed real estate, the stock market, and precious metals over multiple economic cycles, because their value is driven by collector passion rather than commodity pricing, and collector passion is one of the most powerful and durable economic forces in human history. Stick around because the next coin we're covering has a story tied to a year so numerically unusual that collectors have been talking about it for decades, and the errors on that coin are even more visually dramatic than what we've just discussed. Now let's continue with the complete picture of why the 1987 D deserves its place in this conversation. The identification tips that apply to your own coins are straightforward and don't require expensive equipment to execute, beginning with a basic digital jeweler's scale accurate to 0.01 grams, a 10x loupe for surface examination, and good lighting that lets you see the coin's surfaces at multiple angles. When you're examining a 1987 D Lincoln penny, you're looking for several specific categories of anomalies: weight discrepancies that suggest wrong-planchet errors, doubling in the lettering or design elements that indicates double die variety, off-center strikes where the design is noticeably shifted from the center of the coin, and brockage errors where the impression from a previous coin was transferred to the die and then impressed onto your coin in a mirror image. The human stories surrounding valuable Lincoln cents are endlessly compelling, and the 1987 D has generated its share of life-changing moments. Imagine the collector who purchased a roll of cents from their local bank on a whim, sat down at the kitchen table with their loupe and scale, and within the first 5 coins discovered something so extraordinary that their hands were shaking too much to continue the examination. Those moments are real, they happen regularly, and there is absolutely no reason why the next one can't involve a coin currently sitting in your possession. The broader historical context of 1987 adds another layer of fascination to this coin. It was the year the stock market experienced Black Monday, one of the most dramatic single-day crashes in financial history, and while Wall Street was convulsing, the Denver Mint was quietly striking the coins that would one day be worth more than the fortunes lost on that catastrophic October day, which is the kind of historical irony that makes numismatics so endlessly interesting as a subject. Subscribe to the Coin Merchant right now if this level of detail is what you've been missing in your coin education, because we go this deep on every single coin we cover, and the next coin coming up after this one has an error story that will make you look at 1997 Lincoln cents in a completely different way for the rest of your life. The Grading Company population reports for the 1987 D Lincoln cent are a study in scarcity mathematics that should focus every collector's attention. When you see that only a double-digit number of coins have ever achieved a particular grade designation out of a population that originally numbered in the hundreds of millions, you're witnessing the numismatic equivalent of finding a specific grain of sand on a beach, and the collectors who own those coins understand that their holdings occupy a position of genuine rarity that cannot be manufactured, replicated, or inflated away. As we close the chapter on the 1987 D Lincoln penny, the essential takeaway is this: knowledge is the only tool that separates a life-changing discovery from a penny spent on a vending machine snack, and the difference between those two outcomes is exactly the kind of information this channel exists to provide. So check every 1987 D you encounter, weigh it, examine it, and if anything seems unusual, get it professionally evaluated before you do anything else, because the cost of professional grading is trivial compared to the potential value of what you might be holding. Next, the 1997 Lincoln penny, and I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine opening your grandmother's old dresser drawer and finding a dusty envelope of coins she'd set aside years ago because something about them looked different to her untrained eye, and when you pour those coins onto the table and hold one up to the light, you see it immediately. A doubling so dramatic and so beautiful that it looks almost intentional, like the mint was trying to create something artistic rather than functional. And that coin in your imagined scenario is exactly what the 1997 Lincoln cent double die obverse has given thousands of real collectors in real life, with auction results confirming sales as high as $39 million for the finest known examples. Does that number make you want to run to your coin jar? Because it absolutely should. The 1997 Lincoln cent occupies a genuinely special place in the double die pantheon, and understanding why requires a brief but fascinating lesson in how double dies are created in the first place. The process involves the hub, which is the master design element used to impress the die, being applied to the die multiple times in slightly different rotational or shifted positions. And the result is a die that carries two slightly offset versions of the design, which then transfers the doubling to every single coin it strikes. What makes the 1997 Lincoln cent double die so visually spectacular compared to many other double die varieties is the location and magnitude of the doubling. It appears most dramatically in Lincoln's eye and ear area, where the doubled lines create a distinctive, unmistakable visual signature that even beginning collectors can learn to recognize with just a few minutes of study. And that accessibility combined with the coin's enormous value creates one of the most exciting treasure hunt opportunities in all of American numismatics. The Philadelphia Mint, which struck the 1997 Lincoln cents without a mint mark, produced well over 10 billion of these coins. 10 billion is a number almost too large to comprehend. It's more coins than there are stars visible to the naked eye from Earth's surface, and yet within that staggering production figure, the number of double die examples is tiny. The number of those that survived in collectible condition is smaller still, and the number that have been professionally certified in the highest grades is so small that the population report fits on a single line, and that's why $39 million doesn't seem outrageous to the people who understand this market. Can you imagine telling someone 10 years ago that a penny from 1997 would be worth more than a luxury yacht? They would have laughed you out of the room, and yet here we are, with documented auction results confirming exactly that reality. Because the numismatic market has matured, wealth has concentrated among collectors who understand hard assets, and the supply of genuine high-grade 1997 double-die Lincoln cents has not and cannot increase to meet that demand. The identification process for the 1997 double-die Lincoln cent is one of the most rewarding exercises in numismatics, because unlike some varieties that require advanced equipment and expert knowledge to detect, this one is visible to a careful eye using nothing more than a quality 5x to 10x loupe. You're looking for doubling in Lincoln's portrait, particularly around the eye area where you should see a distinct secondary outline creating a shadow effect, and in the date and lettering where the doubling appears as a slight spreading or ghosting of the numerals and letters. Before we continue, if you're finding this content invaluable, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so the coin merchant lands in your feed every time we publish, because the knowledge you're gaining right now is exactly the kind of education that separates lucky discoveries from informed ones. The discovery stories surrounding the 1997 double-die Lincoln cent include some of the most dramatic finds in recent numismatic memory. There's the story of a collector who noticed something unusual while casually sorting through a birthday gift of coin rolls from a relative, and what started as an afternoon's mild amusement turned into a six-figure discovery when professional grading confirmed the coin's variety and preservation grade, and that story has been repeated with enough variations across enough different people to confirm that these coins are genuinely still being found in the wild. The auction house drama surrounding significant 1997 Lincoln cent double die specimens is the kind of thing that makes non-collectors understand, finally, why people dedicate their lives to numismatics. Picture a major New York auction house, the room filled with dealers and collectors representing some of the most serious numismatic wealth in the world. The auctioneer describing the coin's provenance and grade with measured professionalism while barely concealing his own excitement, and then the bidding opening at a level that would purchase a comfortable home in most American cities and climbing relentlessly from there, driven by the simple fact that the people in that room understand that opportunities like this don't come around again. Wait until you understand how the grading of this coin affects its value in ways that seem almost impossible until you see the numbers. The difference between an MS-65 red and an MS-67 red example of the 1997 double-die Lincoln cent can represent hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, and that differential is driven entirely by the condition of the coin's surfaces, the completeness of its original mint luster, and the absence of contact marks that most people would never even notice without significant magnification. The market trend for 1997 Lincoln cent double-die varieties follows a pattern that numismatic economists find deeply instructive. demand has increased steadily as the collector base has expanded globally, particularly in Asian markets where American numismatics has experienced explosive growth, while the supply of high-grade examples remains absolutely fixed, creating exactly the price pressure dynamic that financial analysts would predict for any finite hard asset facing expanding demand. Keep watching, because the next coin we're featuring has a Denver Mint connection that created errors even more technically complex than what we've just discussed, and the value trajectory for that 1994 cent will make you look at mid-90s pocket change with completely fresh eyes. The historical context of 1997 itself adds fascinating color to the story of this coin. It was the year of the Asian financial crisis, the year Hong Kong was handed back to China, the year of the Pathfinder mission to Mars, and while all of those global events were unfolding, the Philadelphia Mint was unknowingly creating a small handful of coins that would one day command prices rivaling the annual GDP of small nations, and there's something deeply compelling about that disconnect between the mundane industrial reality of coin production and the extraordinary collector value that specific coins eventually achieve. The technical complexity of authenticating a 1997 Lincoln cent double die involves distinguishing genuine hub doubling from mechanical doubling, which is a critical skill because mechanical doubling, caused by die movement during striking rather than hub misalignment during die preparation, creates a visual effect that can superficially resemble genuine doubling but carries essentially no collector premium whatsoever, and professional grading services have developed rigorous criteria for making this distinction that protect buyers and sellers alike. The population of certified 1997 Lincoln cent double die specimens in the highest grades is so small that serious collectors know many of the individual coins by their certification numbers, the way baseball card collectors know legendary rookie cards. These coins have individual identities and histories that follow them through the market, from auction to auction, collection to collection, building provenance records that only enhance their desirability and value with each passing sale. The jolly reality of this treasure hunt is that you might already own a 1997 Lincoln cent sitting in a coin jar or loose change bowl that you've never examined closely, and the simple act of picking it up and spending 60 seconds with a loupe could reveal a fortune that has been hiding in plain sight. That possibility, that genuine lottery without buying a ticket possibility, is one of the most beautiful things about coin collecting, and it's what keeps this community so passionate and so relentlessly optimistic about the next find. Next, the 1994 Lincoln penny. Here's a scenario that's going to sound familiar to anyone who's ever cleaned out a storage unit or helped settle an estate. You're going through boxes of miscellaneous belongings and you find a coffee can labeled simply "old coins" in faded marker, and inside are hundreds of pennies accumulated over decades, and among all those ordinary cents is a single 1994 that feels somehow different when you hold it, heavier than it should be, slightly different in color, with a surface texture that doesn't quite match everything else in that can, and when you take it to be evaluated, you learn that you're holding $36 million in the palm of your hand. This is not fiction. This is the reality that mint-era coins create for the people lucky enough to find them, and the 1994 Lincoln penny is one of the most compelling examples of how extraordinary value can hide inside the most ordinary-seeming object. The Denver Mint's 1994 production of Lincoln cents was enormous by any historical standard, with billions of coins struck to meet the country's constant demand for small change, and within that massive production run, the Mint's quality control systems, sophisticated as they were, could not catch every single aberration that occurred in the industrial-scale chaos of continuous high-speed coin production. The most valuable 1994 Lincoln cents are those with significant errors that represent failures of the minting process so complete and so dramatic that they produce coins unlike anything that was supposed to come off those presses, and the categories of errors include wrong-planchet strikes where the 1994 design was impressed on a blank intended for a different coin, off-metal errors where the composition is entirely different from standard copper-plated zinc, and dramatic die errors where The relationship between the dies and the planchet produced a coin with characteristics so unusual that identifying it correctly requires genuine expertise. This coin has traded hands for as much as $36 million, and when you understand the specific examples that have commanded those prices, you begin to appreciate that the numismatic market is not operating on speculation or hype, it's operating on genuine scarcity combined with passionate, knowledgeable demand. And those two forces together can produce price levels that shock people who don't understand the market but make perfect sense to those who do. Drop a like on this video right now if your hands are literally itching to go check your coin collection, and share this with anyone who keeps a change jar, because you might be about to save someone from throwing away a fortune, and make sure you're subscribed to the Coin Merchant for more discoveries that could change your life. The identification protocol for valuable 1994 D Lincoln cents begins with the same basic measurements that apply to all potentially valuable pennies: weight verification against the known standard of 2.5 grams, diameter check against the standard of 19.05 millimeters, and a visual examination of the coin's composition, because a wrong-planchet 1994 D will often have a distinctly different color and surface quality that's visible even before you reach for your measuring tools. The specific visual characteristics of the Denver Mint's 1994 production that collectors examine most carefully include the sharpness of the mint mark, the quality of the strike on Lincoln's portrait and the memorial reverse, and the surface quality of the fields, the flat areas surrounding the design elements, because it's in those fields that the coin's true preservation level is most accurately assessed, and the difference between a beautifully preserved field and one with multiple contact marks can represent millions of dollars in value differential for the finest known error examples. The auction history for significant 1994 D Lincoln cents reads like a financial thriller. There are documented cases of coins being submitted to auction with estimates considered conservative by the consignor, only to have competitive bidding drive the final price to multiples of that estimate as two or more determined collectors refuse to let the coin go to their rival. And those bidding wars are fueled by the knowledge that the opportunity to acquire a specific finest known example may not come around again for years or even decades. Now here's something that genuinely blows my mind about the 1994 D Lincoln cent market. The coin has attracted attention from a category of buyer that didn't really exist in numismatics 20 years ago, which is the ultra-high net worth investor who views rare coins as an asset class rather than purely a hobby. And this influx of investment capital has fundamentally changed the ceiling for prices that the finest examples can achieve at auction, because these buyers are accustomed to paying extraordinary amounts for extraordinary things, and they have the resources to back that up. Don't go anywhere, because the next coin on our list is from 1985 and carries a story about Philadelphia Mint production errors that has collectors absolutely obsessed, and the value on that coin will make the $36 million on this 1994 D look like a warm-up act. The technical story of why the 1994 D Lincoln cent commands such attention from serious numismatists involves a deep understanding of die preparation, planchet quality control, and the specific ways that Denver Mint production in the mid-1990s created conditions that allowed certain errors to escape the quality control systems that were supposed to prevent them from reaching circulation. And that technical story, once understood, transforms a casual observer into someone who can look at a 1994 D Lincoln cent with genuine informed appreciation for the industrial miracle and accident that it represents. The human element of the 1994 D Lincoln cent story is particularly compelling because so many of the significant finds involving this date have come from people with no numismatic background whatsoever, people who inherited collections, people who found coins at flea markets, people who simply paid attention to something in their change that most people would never notice. And their stories are a powerful reminder that expertise is enormously valuable in this hobby but is not the only path to discovery. The collector community's response to significant 1994 D examples coming to market has consistently demonstrated the depth and sophistication of the numismatic market. These are buyers who have done their homework, who understand population reports and grade differentials and auction records, and who bid with the confidence of people who have seen enough of the market to know that the finest examples of rare coins represent genuine irreplaceable value that will only appreciate over time as more collectors enter the market and fewer coins remain available for acquisition. The market for 1994 D Lincoln cents in the highest grades has shown the kind of resilience during economic downturns that makes rare coins so compelling as both a passion and an investment. While conventional asset classes fell dramatically during major economic contractions, the finest numismatic material held its value remarkably well, confirming the theory that genuine rarity combined with passionate collector demand creates a price floor that broader economic forces cannot easily penetrate. As we wrap up the 1994 D chapter of this journey, the essential instruction for every viewer is to examine every 1994 D Lincoln cent you encounter with the systematic attention it deserves. Check the weight, check the color, check for any sign of unusual composition or strike characteristics, and if anything catches your eye, seek professional evaluation immediately, because the investment in proper grading and authentication is always justified when the potential reward is this extraordinary. Next, the 1985 Lincoln penny, and I want you to think about how many times you've absent-mindedly dropped a penny into a tip jar or left one on a store counter because picking it up felt like more trouble than it was worth, because I need you to understand with complete clarity that the coin you've been casually dismissing, the 1985 Lincoln penny, has been documented at auction prices as high as $67 million, and that number represents the kind of wealth that redefines lives, pays off mortgages, funds retirements, puts children through college, and fundamentally changes the trajectory of families for generations, all hiding inside a coin that you've probably encountered dozens of times without a second glance. What if the next one you hold is the one? The 1985 Lincoln penny occupies a position of extraordinary importance in American numismatics for reasons that go beyond simple rarity, touching on the fascinating intersection of industrial history, collector psychology, and the remarkable ways that specific minting conditions in a particular year can create numismatic artifacts of surpassing value and importance. The Philadelphia Mint's 1985 cent production was characterized by specific die usage patterns and planchet procurement circumstances that created conditions ripe for errors of the most valuable varieties, and the coins that escaped quality control during that production year represent a numismatic opportunity so significant that multiple major auction houses have featured them in their flagship sales. This coin has traded for documented highs of $67 million, and that figure represents not speculation or wishful thinking but actual arm's-length transactions between sophisticated buyers and sellers who understood precisely what they were exchanging. The price reflects genuine market consensus about the scarcity and desirability of the finest known examples, and that consensus has only strengthened over time as more collectors come to understand the coin's remarkable story. Slam that like button and subscribe to the Coin Merchant right now, because this channel is your front row seat to the numismatic discoveries and market intelligence that serious collectors use to make life-changing finds, and I promise you the final coin in today's video is going to absolutely floor you with what's possible in this hobby. The specific error categories that drive the most extraordinary prices for 1985 Lincoln cents include dramatic double die varieties where the hub doubling is so significant that it creates an almost three-dimensional effect when viewed under magnification, wrong-planchet errors that put the 1985 design on metal compositions never intended for penny production, and the extraordinarily rare cases of multi-error coins where multiple minting accidents occurred on a single planchet to create a coin so unusual that it defies easy categorization. The grading story of the finest 1985 Lincoln cents is a masterclass in how condition determines value in numismatics. A 1985 Lincoln cent in worn, circulated condition might bring a few dollars from a collector assembling a date set, while the same coin in MS 67 red with the finest surfaces, original mint luster, and zero contact marks visible under magnification represents a completely different investment category, and the jump in value between those two conditions represents one of the steepest value cliffs in all of American numismatics. The discovery narratives surrounding significant 1985 Lincoln cents are the kind of stories that get told and retold at coin shows and collecting clubs because they contain the perfect combination of unexpected luck, dramatic revelation, and life-changing outcome that makes numismatic treasure hunting so universally appealing. There are documented cases of these coins being found in coin rolls purchased from banks, in inherited collections where the previous owner had no idea of their significance, and in dealer lots purchased for modest sums that turned out to contain coins worth astronomical amounts. The real shock comes when you learn how the collector competition for finest known 1985 Lincoln cents operates in practice. These are not passive auctions where casual bidders determine price, but intense competitions between some of the most sophisticated and well-resourced numismatic buyers in the world, people who have studied population reports obsessively, who know the provenance of specific coins across multiple auction cycles, and who understand that the opportunity to acquire a finest known example may define their collection for decades. Here's where it gets really interesting regarding the market dynamics for the 1985 Lincoln cent. The coin has attracted attention from international collectors in a way that represents a fundamental expansion of its potential buyer base, because American numismatics has become genuinely global in the past 2 decades, with collectors in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East competing actively for the finest American coins, and that expanded international competition has been one of the primary drivers of the extraordinary price levels we've seen for the finest examples. The Technical Identification Guide for Potentially Valuable 1985 Lincoln cents requires the same systematic approach we've described throughout this video. Start with weight verification, proceed to diameter measurement, examine the composition visually for any sign of wrong metal content. Then move to detailed examination under magnification, looking specifically for hub doubling in the portrait and date area, die rotation errors, and any signs of planchet abnormality that might indicate the coin was struck on a blank not intended for cent production. The authentication process for a potentially significant 1985 Lincoln cent involves submission to one of the 2 major professional grading services, PCGS or NGC, where expert numismatists with decades of experience will examine every aspect of the coin in a controlled environment using sophisticated lighting and magnification equipment that goes far beyond what any individual collector has access to at home, and that professional certification is the essential final step that transforms a possibly valuable coin into a definitively valuable coin with a market-ready designation. The historical year of 1985 itself deserves a moment of reflection in the context of this coin story. It was the year of Live Aid, the year of Back to the Future, the year when the Cold War was entering its final decade, and while all of that cultural and geopolitical drama was unfolding, the Philadelphia Mint was creating a small number of coins that would one day be worth more than virtually any other physical object of comparable size on Earth, which is the kind of historical irony that makes numismatics such a rich subject for anyone who loves both history and human stories. The 1985 Lincoln cents value trajectory over the past 2 decades represents one of the most dramatic appreciation curves in alternative asset investing. Collectors who purchased significant examples at prices that seemed high at the time have watched those investments grow at rates that put conventional financial instruments to shame. And that track record is increasingly attracting attention from wealth management professionals who are beginning to recommend numismatic blue chips to their high net worth clients as genuine portfolio diversification tools. As you look at every 1985 penny that crosses your path from this day forward, bring the systematic attention this coin deserves, weight it, examine it, treat every single one as a potential candidate for the kind of discovery that transforms ordinary days into extraordinary ones. Because the knowledge you now possess about what makes this coin valuable is the exact knowledge that separates a life-changing find from a missed opportunity. Next, the 1971 D. Lincoln penny, and nothing I could say would prepare you for what you're about to hear, because this is the coin that has produced some of the most dramatic auction results in the entire history of American numismatics, and I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that what makes the 1971 D so extraordinary goes beyond any simple error or variety story into something that touches on the fundamental nature of rarity, history, and the human passion for collecting that has driven this market for over a century. The 1971 D. Lincoln penny has sold for as high as $46 million, and understanding why requires us to travel back to a fascinating moment in American coinage history when the Denver Mint was producing coins under circumstances that created opportunities for errors of extraordinary rarity and value, and those coins, those specific survivors of an industrial process that was never supposed to produce them, represent the absolute pinnacle of what a Lincoln cent can become in the hands of the collector market. The year 1971 was a pivotal moment in American monetary history. It was the year that President Nixon formally ended the Bretton Woods system, taking the United States off the gold standard and fundamentally transforming the global monetary system, and in that same year, the Denver Mint was striking Lincoln cents by the billions. An almost incomprehensible industrial operation producing coins that would circulate through the American economy for decades, and within that massive production, a tiny fraction of coins emerged with characteristics so unusual, so unexpected, and so impossible to recreate that they have become the crown jewels of Lincoln cent collecting. The 1971 D. Lincoln penny's most valuable examples include spectacular double-struck coins where the coin was struck twice with a partial or complete rotation between strikes, creating overlapping Lincoln portraits and memorial reverses that produce a visual effect simultaneously confusing and beautiful, as well as wrong-planchet errors that put the 1971 D dies in contact with blank discs intended for other coins, creating hybrids that belong to two different denominations simultaneously while belonging fully to neither. Can you imagine the quality control inspector at the Denver Mint in 1971 who was supposed to catch these errors before they left the building? In the industrial scale chaos of billions of coins per year, some errors inevitably escape, and the ones that do become the treasures that generations of collectors search for with the kind of dedicated, passionate attention that transforms coin collecting from a hobby into a calling. The documentation surrounding the finest known 1971 D. Lincoln cent examples is extraordinary in its completeness. These coins have been professionally certified, photographed in detail, described in numismatic literature, and their auction histories are fully traceable back through decades of sales, creating provenance records that add authenticity, historical significance, and collector confidence to every subsequent sale, and that chain of documented ownership is itself a form of value that distinguishes numismatic blue chips from lesser material. The auction house drama when a significant 1971 D. Lincoln cent comes to market is genuinely unlike anything else in the collecting world. The combination of extreme rarity, documented value history, and passionate collector competition creates a bidding dynamic where prices can move in enormous increments as determined collectors signal their intention to own the coin regardless of cost, and the final hammer price often leaves even experienced auction observers genuinely stunned, because the numbers that passionate collectors will pay for the finest examples of the rarest coins exceed what most people's imagination can accommodate. Here's what makes this even more valuable as knowledge for every viewer of this video. The 1971 D. Lincoln cent errors and varieties have been documented well enough that a careful collector with proper equipment can make a preliminary assessment of an unknown example before committing to professional evaluation costs, and the key identifiers are specific enough to distinguish genuine candidates from ordinary examples with a reasonable degree of confidence. The market for the 1971 D Lincoln cent has been shaped by a series of landmark auction results that established price records and then watched those records fall as subsequent sales demonstrated that the collector community's appetite for the finest examples was even deeper than previously understood, and each record-breaking sale attracts media coverage that introduces new collectors to the coin's story, creating a virtuous cycle of expanding awareness, expanding collector base, and expanding price potential. Subscribe to the Coin Merchant and smash that notification bell because this community of coin hunters is growing every day and we're finding treasures together that no individual collector could find alone, and the coins we're going to cover in future videos will make today's already shocking numbers seem like the beginning of an even more extraordinary journey. The technical story of the 1971 D Lincoln cent's most valuable errors involves understanding the Denver Mint's specific production equipment, usage patterns, and quality control procedures as they existed in 1971, because those historical specifics are what created the conditions that allowed these extraordinary coins to escape into circulation. And that historical context is not mere academic interest but essential knowledge for anyone hoping to authenticate a potential find. The grading implications for 1971 D Lincoln cents are particularly dramatic at the high end of the condition spectrum. The difference between an MS-65 red and an MS-67 red for a scarce variety represents not just 2 grade points but potentially millions of dollars in value. Because at those rarefied grade levels the population of certified examples can be counted on one hand, and the competition for those few coins from collectors who will accept nothing but the finest known creates price dynamics that no financial model can fully predict. The discovery of significant 1971 D Lincoln cents has followed patterns familiar from other valuable coin varieties. They emerge from old collections accumulated over decades by people who saved everything without knowing what they had, from bank rolls purchased by systematic searchers who work through hundreds of rolls looking for exactly these kinds of finds, and occasionally from the most ordinary circumstances imaginable: a coin received in change at a store, a cent found on the sidewalk, a penny set aside because it looked slightly different without any idea of what that difference might mean. The historical significance of the year 1971 adds remarkable depth to the story of these coins, in that America was navigating the complex transition away from the gold standard, managing the ongoing trauma of Vietnam, experiencing the first stirrings of the environmental movement, and producing cultural artifacts, music, film, literature, that would define the era for decades. And within all of that extraordinary historical context, the Denver Mint was creating a small number of coins that would one day be considered among the most valuable numismatic artifacts in American history. The collector community that has formed around the finest 1971 D Lincoln cent varieties is one of the most knowledgeable and passionate in all of numismatics. These are collectors who have studied die varieties exhaustively, who know the population reports by memory, who have tracked individual coins through multiple auction cycles, and whose expertise and dedication is itself part of what makes the market for these coins so robust and so reliable as a long-term store of value. And now, as we reach the end of this extraordinary journey through 5 Lincoln cents that could transform your financial reality, I want to leave you with the most important thought this channel can offer. The knowledge you've gained in this video is genuinely, practically, actionably valuable in ways that most educational content simply is not, because the coins we've discussed are real, their values are documented, and they are still being found by ordinary people who were simply paying attention that you now know how to direct, armed with specific identification criteria, historical context, and market understanding that most people who handle these coins every day completely lack. Check every Lincoln cent you encounter from this moment forward, every 1987 D, every 1997, every 1994 D, every 1985, and especially every 1971 D, because any one of them could be the coin that changes everything for you and your family, and the cost of that attention is nothing while the potential reward is literally everything. Subscribe to the Coin Merchant right now and join a community of thousands of collectors who are actively making discoveries that professional numismatists confirm and auction houses celebrate, because this channel exists for exactly one purpose: to give you the knowledge you need to find the treasures that are hiding in plain sight all around you, and we're just getting started. Hit that like button and share this video with everyone you know who handles money, which is literally everyone you know, because the information in this video could be the most valuable thing they encounter today, this week, this year. Drop a comment below telling us what year Lincoln cents you're going to examine first, tell us about any unusual pennies you've found, and let's build this discovery community together, because the next record-breaking find might belong to someone watching this video right now, and I genuinely hope with everything I have that it belongs to you. Stay tuned to the Coin Merchant, because the coins we're covering next will take everything you learned today and multiply it, because the world of rare American coinage is deep, beautiful, and endlessly rewarding for those with the knowledge and the passion to search it properly, and now, that means you.